I support reparations. We're going to get reparations. Okay? But I got 5 issues with the reparations movement.
Okay, can we hear them?
Issue number 1, I haven't seen any accounting with regard to the psychological damage that was done to African people. All I see is a focus on 243 years of unpaid labor. That's important, but that 243 years of unpaid labor is nothing compared to 400 years of psychological terrorism.
Yes, yes.
Where is the accounting for the psychological damage? You understand?
I understand.
Why do successful black men marry outside of their race more than all other men put together marry outside of theirs? Psychological terrorism of white supremacy. Why do most black women feel in order to be beautiful, they got to put somebody else's hair on their head? That's psychological terrorism. Why do successful black people feel they have to live in a white suburb to feel like they've made it? That's psychological terrorism. You see, that is the continual residual side effects of MIBPA, i.e. post-traumatic slavery disease. You can pay us for 243 years, but that does nothing to undo the menticide. We need an accounting on the psychological damage that was done to the African, and that psychological damage is worth 100 times more than the unpaid labor. Number 2, if we're going to talk about reparations, it cannot stop with 1865 and the 13th Amendment. Or are we going to let them off the hook for the last 154 years of the same thing? See, don't stop this at 1865. Bring it all the way up to 2019. And one of the things that must be accounted for and restored and repaired is the fact that white folks have stolen tens of thousands of acres of black land in this country at gunpoint that we are entitled to get back. So where is the conversation about returning the stolen lands back to black folks? See, we dealing with gentrification, right? They pushing us out our neighborhood. But how much of those neighborhoods they pushing us out of were actually owned by black folks 100 years ago? There must be a reclamation of the land. Next, I haven't seen anybody mention the Arabs and the role that they played in the slave trade. The Arabs were trading slaves before the white man, and they still trade them to this very day. Are we only dealing with the British? What about the Arabs? Deal with everybody.
Right.
Next, there was one slavery, but all of the reparations movements are divided like tribes. There's an English reparations for the slaves of Europe. There's a North American reparations for the slave of America. The Caribbean have their own reparations. Africa got their own reparations. Why do you have all these different reparations movements when there was one slavery that took us from one place? The reparations movement needs to be unified or it will fail. Why? Because the slave master will play us against each other so none of us get nothing. Let me give you an example. If America says you owe us 20 billion, hypothetically, and Jamaica says you owe us 40 billion, white man gonna say, well, if I owe black America 20, how can I possibly owe you 40? In other words, if we don't collaborate with the arguments, they'll be able to expose contradictions in all of our arguments and none of us will get nothing. So there must be a unity of movement. Last thing, I don't want any money from America for reparations because American money ain't worth anything. It's not backed by gold. It's not backed by diamonds. It's not backed by silver. I don't want no, the worst thing we could do is take a check from America because America's money is only a promissory note. So what do you mean, Doc? I'm saying that the reparations should take the form of things and assets and privileges and resources and rights that can never expire. Why?
Okay.
Because the benefit of slavery to America can never expire. So whatever we accept as payment for it should equally never expire. I want control over certain land forever, certain waterways forever, certain resources forever, certain institutions forever. Because America will forever benefit from me, so I should forever benefit from her.
That's fire right there.
Before there can be external reparations, there must be internal restoration. I want y'all to hear this. One other point I'm gonna disagree on with the Queen, respectfully. Money will not save us. I know, but hear me. Hear me. Right, but hear me. But you said the money would help us. No, it won't. Okay. People argue that the money will help us, not you, but people argue that the money will help. I'm here to tell y'all, listen to me now. I don't care how much money they give you in reparations, and I've already made it clear I don't want any money, right? It won't help you. Do you want to know why? Because the problem of the Negro is profoundly psychological. It's not monetary. You blow $2 trillion a year. You blow $2 trillion a year. So is the reparations dollar any different than the ones you already got in your pocket? What are you going to do differently with the reparations check than what you're doing now? Let me tell you, let me say this. I'm for reparations, I want to be clear. But what I'm for first is for us to not be so thirsty for a check and look within the community and build infrastructure. Because if the black dollar doesn't circulate not even one time before it leaves, how fast do you think your reparations dollars are going to leave? Do you realize we don't have any infrastructure or businesses to trap the money? In other words, the Chinese can't wait till you get reparations. Mercedes-Benz can't wait till you get reparations. I heard they're going to open up a reparations hair store and have a reparations weave sale. I heard Foot Locker gonna have an Air Jordan reparations special for all you Negroes. Because as soon as you get your check, you're gonna take it straight to white folks and Chinese. All I'm saying is, we're entitled to it, we will get it, but I would hope that we would care enough about our great-grandkids, great-grandkids, to build the infrastructure that can trap the money inside before we get it. Otherwise, we're going to blow it, and we only got one chance. I'm a certified school psychologist and doctor of clinical psychology who will go on record to say that I totally support corporal punishment. But I do not support it as the only form of discipline in your home. The way Dr. Umar sees discipline, you can discipline a child without ever putting your hands on them.
Okay.
Oh, yes, you can. The problem with most of us is we wait till they're 6 before we start disciplining them. And then you got to put your hands on them because they didn't do what they want for 6 years. Start early and you never got to touch them. Start late and you got to break their damn neck. Okay? Now, if you got to spank your child every time they do something wrong, that's child abuse. Okay? My rule is real simple. If the child did something that could have affected the safety of themselves or someone else, that's an ass whipping. If it did not affect the safety of themselves or someone else, then find a non-physical means of punishment. Example, my son comes home. His curfew is 9 o'clock. He comes home 10 o'clock. You late, that's a punishment. Maybe he don't go outside tomorrow, but I'm not gonna put hands on him because coming in the house an hour late doesn't necessarily put his life or safety in jeopardy or anyone else's. Your daughter got an F on her report card, okay? She's going to get a consequence, but that F can be improved next marking period. I may not necessarily put hands on her, right? But if I find out my son was joyriding in a stolen car, you whip that ass. Because riding in that car, somebody could have got killed. There's grand theft auto. You can have a felony on your record. You spank him. You walk in the kitchen and catch your 5-year-old playing with matches on the stove. He could have burned the whole house down. Grandmom is upstairs in a wheelchair. She can't come down them steps. You could have killed your grandmother and burned yourself up. Whip his ass because he could have messed with the safety or livelihood of somebody. Do y'all follow me? Yes. So when the behavior can affect the life or safety, consider corporal punishment. But if it does not, find another means of doing so.